How many of these big white pines is it going to take for us to build our first sugar house? And have we cut enough already? Let's do the math. So we've been cutting these pines all winter long to get ready to build our sugar house, which we plan to be a 16 by 20 foot building. These are all white pine logs. They're about 50 years old, and they should mill up into pretty good lumber for that sugar house build. We've got two big piles going, this one right here and another one on the other side of the pile. And we're thinking that we have about 2,000, maybe 2,500 board feet. We're going to do some math to figure that out. We've got a couple of tape measures. We've got a regular tape here. We've got a Spencer logging tape. That logging tape is super, super handy. It actually gives you really cool measurements. It's 100-foot tape, I think, might be 75. You can actually use it to get really good estimates on diameter at breast height, which is known as DBH. Figure out how much lumber is in a tree, and also take really accurate long measurements when you're trying to buck up a log so that you can cut it in a way that you want it for the sawmill, which is where it's headed next. All of our logs are cut to a little over 8 feet so that we can make 8-foot boards right now. We have a few that are cut to 10, but for the most part, they're only cut to 8. And part of the reason for that is that these logs are big. They're a little bit bigger than my tractor wants to handle. We can barely lift up 8-footers, 8.5-footers from the butt of a tree. As you go up the tree and it gets narrower, the logs get lighter. We can pick up some 10-footers. But until we know exactly what we need for lumber for the sugar house, we're not going to be cutting anything over 8 feet because we know we need a bunch of 8-foot boards. And what we do to figure out if we have enough lumber is take our tape and take measurements across each and every log and try to get an idea of what all the diameters are. And if you want to get an idea of what the diameter is going to be while the tree is still standing, you can use one of these tapes. It's got the DBH measurement on the back side of the tape. Pretty handy. You don't have to cut the tree down to figure it out, and you don't have to do a bunch of math. I'll show you how it works. So on the workbench here, this is the tape. It's got a nice hook at the end. It's got a coating on it to make sure that it doesn't get chewed up. But on one side, turn it around so you can see, on one side, you've got regular DBH measurements. On the other side, you have an actual ruler. So on this side, you take this, you wrap it around the tree, and it'll tell you what the diameter of the tree is based on how much it takes to get around the circumference. And yeah, that's just basic math, but sometimes it's easier to use a tool than to use your brain, especially when you're outside working in the woods and it's really cold outside, or if you don't like doing math. So I'll give you an example on one of these trees out front that are actually going to be coming down anyways. This tree is a white pine, probably 70 feet tall or so. We've already taken a couple of them down next to it, but this one has power service running right in the middle. So we're going to leave it for the electric company. But all we're going to do to figure out the DBH, it's a little hard to do with one hand. We'll find a spot we can hook this on. We'll take the tape, we'll come around the tree. We'll look. Now we can see that this tree has a diameter of about 17 inches. And that is a really useful thing to know when you're trying to figure out how many of these big trees you need to cut down to build something. But there's a lot more to it than just knowing the diameter and how many trees you have. And it's cold out here, so let's head downstairs to the workbench and talk about it a little bit more. So I built a tool to figure that out. The way I did it is I used Excel. I took the different calculations for the different board feet estimator tools that I could find and plugged them into a spreadsheet, put in the numbers for what I have for measurements. So assuming 8-foot logs, we have a few 10s, mostly 8s. Assuming 8-foot logs, all of the individual diameter measurements from every log that we've cut, punch those numbers in, and then it spit me out estimates on how many board feet I have. And here's what that tool looks like. And here's that tool. This is built right in an Excel spreadsheet. I went online and looked up the different calculations and formulas for different board foot estimators. Those estimators are the Doyle scale, the Scribner scale, and the International scale. On this tool, I punch in the small end diameter, the length of the log. It tells me what I'm going to get based off each scale, as well as the recovery percentage from the log. It'll give me an estimated board foot yield, as well as the estimated number of 2x4x8s, because that's something I can wrap my head around a lot easier. Then it gives me the total board foot for all of the logs put together for each scale. And then finally, the total average from all those scales put together for total board foot, as well as the total number of 2x4x8 boards we'll get from those logs. So with all that data, it looks like we've got somewhere between 1,500 board feet and 2,500 board feet of lumber in that pile of logs that I just showed you. The sugar house that we're planning to build is supposed to be 16 feet wide by 20 feet long, and then eventually have a 10-foot roof overhang put onto it to store firewood under. So for those of you who understand lumber math, let me know in the comments. Do you think I did this math right? Do you think that's going to be enough lumber? The first year, we're not going to be putting a floor in. We're just going to be building it on skids on a gravel pad. Might do the floor next year, but everything else is going to be milled up lumber from our own property. But as for this year, we're going to be doing a temporary setup in the driveway, which will be a lot better than what we had last year, but still not as nice as having our own dedicated sugar house. And when it is time to build the dedicated sugar house, it's going to be going right up here in the front yard. But first, we've got some zoning hurdles to jump through, and we'll keep you posted on that. So if this kind of stuff sounds interesting to you, if you like the idea of homesteading, being more self-sufficient, checking out people doing real projects on a real Vermont homestead, make sure to give us a follow, tell your friends, and stay tuned, because we got a lot more to share coming up. And as soon as this sawmill gets thawed out of this frozen snowbank it's in, we're going to start having logs hit the mill, and sawdust is going to fly. So stay tuned for that too. Have fun with whatever projects you're working on around your homestead, and make sure to drop a comment letting us know where you're from and what you're looking forward to doing this spring.